What's going on, guys, in the works, and welcome to the first Battlefield 4 Showdown, where we pit two weapons against each other and you, the viewers, decide which one you think is the best weapon of the two. Now, we did this during Battlefield 3 and you guys really enjoyed it, and I'm super excited to be bringing it to you guys for Battlefield 4 because I think there are a lot of interesting weapons, and it's really fun to sit down and take an in-depth look at each weapon and see which weapon performs better in what situation. Now, we're starting this week off with two all-purpose kit weapons, the ACW-R, which is extremely popular and one of the best weapons in the beta, and the SG553, a weapon that was one of the co-op weapons from Battlefield 3. But let's take a look at some of the base stats here so we can get an idea of what we're working with. You can see the ACW-R shoots 880 rounds per minute. That's 50 rounds per minute faster than the SG553. It reloads a hair quicker, not a ton, 1.8 seconds versus 2.15 seconds. But it also has a faster muzzle velocity at 500 meters per second to the SG553, which only has 430 meters per second. And bullet velocity is actually pretty important because it's basically what determines your bullet drop, and it means that you're going to have to compensate a lot more with the SG553 than the ACW-R. It also means the ACW-R's effective range is much further because the bullets actually can travel a lot more distance than the SG553's. Now, if you look at these base stats, you would say, well, the ACW-R looks like it blows the SG553 out of the water. Why on earth would I ever choose that? Well, that's where you get into the recoil patterns. The SG553 actually does have a slightly softer recoil pattern than the ACW-R. Most of the ACW-R's recoil is going to be straight up, whereas the SG553 has a slightly to the right recoil pull. This is in line with how a lot of weapons actually behaved in Battlefield 3. The classic example, the M16. So up and to the right recoil is actually pretty easy to compensate for in most scenarios, and this weapon is no exception. Now, I actually have the unique opportunity to talk about how it performs on both console and PC. During the Battlefield 4 Showdown event live in London, which oddly enough has the same name as my series, I was actually able to test both these weapons on the Xbox One. And why is that a big deal? Well, weapons behave differently on PC than they do on console. And that was one of the biggest weaknesses of my Battlefield 3 Showdown series, is I didn't take into account how the console players might actually be, approach a different weapon, because recoil compensation is a different animal on the console. Well, I can tell you from experience, the ACW-R was very, very difficult to control on the Xbox One. I actually found myself gravitating towards weapons like the AK-5C and the SG553 because I just found them to be a little bit easier to compensate for that recoil. However, on the PC, it's a different story. PC recoil is a little bit different. You can usually control recoil a bit easier just because the mouse is a more diverse tool than a controller. And that's no shot at consoles. I play on consoles. I have enjoyed hundreds of hours of Battlefield on the Xbox. So I do know that it is a different animal when it comes to recoil compensation on a controller. So, from my experiences on both the PC and the console, I found that the SG553 is the easier weapon to control. The ACW-R was just a very wild child. I mean, it does have that really blazing fast fire rate, and I do enjoy the quick reload, but on the console I found that the recoil pattern was just very, very difficult, especially at longer ranges, because these weapons don't have assault rifle spread. They are slightly worse in that respect. The assault rifles are going to be slightly accurate, depending on which one you're using. I know it's different for a lot of them, but in terms of base stats, the assault rifles are going to be slightly accurate. But the fact that you can put these two weapons on any kit makes it very versatile. So I do think this is a really close race this week. I do think they both have a lot of strengths. Base stats wise, ACW-R has that quick reload. The SG553 is not far behind it, though. I don't think that that's going to be a make or break scenario, but I do like the 1.8 second reload. I mean, that makes it so that you can blaze through magazines very quickly. If you go through ammo very fast and you're constantly reloading, that's probably going to be the weapon for you. But if you are having problems with the ACW-R's upward recoil, that very sharp climb, you may want to consider switching to the SG553 because I think they perform very similar. Now, the 50 rounds per minute faster that the ACW-R does shoot than the SG553 is not that big of a deal. Yes, it's going to beat, if they went head on and started the first time, the time to kill on the ACW-R is going to be higher. Common logic there, but I think in practical usage, you're not going to find too many differences there. I think when you're just talking about, anything under like 70 rounds per minute, there's not a huge discrepancy there. So I wouldn't base the rate of fire on your decision. I would base it on what platform you play on, how well you can control the recoil of the ACW-R, and, just what you're trying to do with it. I found the SG553 is easier to use at range. ACW-R is better up close. Like I said, personal preference there. I do primarily play on PC. Now, attachment-wise, I've tried the heavy barrel on the ACW-R when I was on the console. Definitely didn't like that because it only exemplified how bad the recoil pattern was because it just went straight up to the moon. Whereas on the SG553, I did find it to be a little bit easier to control with heavy barrel if you do want to use heavy barrel. But again, it'll depend on what you're trying to do with the weapon. Now, at this point in the episode, I'm going to be calling on you guys to let me know which weapon you think deserves to win this week's Battlefield 4 Showdown. Should it be the tame SG553 or should it be the quick reloading ACW-R? Let me know in the Facebook poll. The link is in at the top of the description. All you gotta do is click on it, pick the weapon you think should win, and we'll talk about it at the beginning of the next episode, as well as let me know what weapons you might like to see in a future episode of the Battlefield 4 Showdown, because we've now got tons of new weapons at our disposal. So let me know in the comments. I will pick the one that gets the most likes, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.